This is Sam Williams. I'm Ellie and we, alongside Tom Cross and Lauren Bohr, will be putting candidates through their paces in the run-up to Election Night Live on Friday. Right, I think it's time we moved on to the first zone. Sam.
Well, good evening. We begin this evening with the VP engagement candidate, Dan Varley. The engagement zone is the zone responsible for all of SUSU's relations with external agencies, and of course that includes Raise and Give and all social media channels. Good evening, Dan.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hi.
In your manifesto, you mention nighttime events in your manifesto and acknowledge that a problem is the proximity to the city centre. With this in mind, is it really worth investing effort in events that would likely not be well attended?
Well, I think you have to think about why they aren't well attended. I thought I'd mentioned the whole proximity to the city centre because that's why students weren't coming every Friday. But I think if you put on high quality events with the right price drinks and the right acts, then people will come.
Welcome back to SUSU Election Q&A with me, Ellie and the lovely Tom Cross. So the next zone is Community Zone. The VB community focuses on developing a global community, supporting the student experience in halls and private rented accommodation. Tonight we are joined by three candidates for VP Community: Flora Noble, Rachika Menon and Rebecca Lake.
The one thing to remember is that although halls are a big part of the community zone, they actually kind of encompass a lot of other parts of the community zone. So within halls you have international students, you have postgraduate students, you have student parents, you have mature students. And I think it's really important to remember that halls are not exclusively about first years. And yes, the majority of my experience does come within halls, but I don't think that for a second that means that I haven't interacted with all of the other groups that are associated within the student community zone.
You said earlier that you wanted buses to the knock, but earlier buses, so early on in the morning.
Yeah.
Is this realistic, given that this isn't under your control, and how are you really going to go about maybe achieving that?
I wouldn't have complete control of it, obviously, but I think being in the position of a sabbatical officer, I would like to lobby and campaign to do a lot of things outside this union. I think that's really important. So be that Southampton City Council for other things I've mentioned in my manifesto, or Union Link itself.
I did talk to the Malaysian campus. Like, one of my friends went there and they spoke to some of the students there, and they feel that they do not have a social space. One of the things they use is their library as a social space because they don't have enough space to have social activities. So improving that. They also have a budget problem. They require a few more ringgits, and they think that to hold more events, they want to increase their budget.
I think they were a really, really strong crowd, really. Three very different girls with different ideas. I particularly like, there was some very kind of hardline questioning from Ellie
Tom especially, and Ellie. Both of them, I think, phrased some really good questions that I think people will really be interested in.
So we are joined here by the uncontested candidate for education, Elliot Greater.
Hello.
For the greater good.
Yes, hopefully.
Elliot, are there any national issues concerning students' education that you believe the union should have a stance on?
Well, the big one which has been coming up is going to be the junior doctor strike. This is obviously covering a wide variety of zones, welfare as well, but it will have an effect on education. I feel very much the union should have a policy on that. There's also got to consider it's not always about policy, but also just reacting to national events when they raised the cap, allowing more students in last year. That has had an impact in terms of the number of people in lectures, the number of provisions in the library. And I think the union really needs to be able to react with the university when things like that happen.
We're moving on to VP Welfare now, which is quite a diverse remit that is tasked with focusing on students' well-being and sustainability. You mentioned in your manifesto that you want to improve student sleeping patterns, but it's not a choice of each student regarding how they sleep. So are you going to be there personally waking them up in the morning, or are you going to be, how are you going to implement sort of a recommended amount of sleep?
I got some good advice about sleeping patterns from the advice into when I went there, and I think part of it is not something that we promote on SUSU or on the website, but it's such a key part of our lives. We should be doing that. I think what I want to do is I want to make sure that information is available to students from freshers.
In your manifesto, you say it can be difficult to know where to go to get the right help. I want to make sure students know where to go. So the help and support section of the SUSU website does offer information on this. Do you think it's not good enough, or would you do something differently?
I think often putting everything on a website is very difficult because people are going to miss it. I think something that currently is happening is a lot of the external sites, so WSA, where we went yesterday, now have like little posters about the advice centre, and I think it would be nice to put those in halls as well so that students know exactly what point of calls they can go to get help. So I think it's not just focusing on online, but actually having physical stuff around as well.
I mean, I am a straight white male, so I'm very, very clear about the fact that I do not represent those groups, myself. But I think that it's about policies. And I think that if you look at my policies, you can see that I put a lot of thought into it. And on the community zone, which obviously deals with internationals and postgraduates and mature students, I've got the experience of those different groups. So, for example, in terms of support, I think that a lot of international students come here and they learn in English. And that's good because you need to study in English. But I think that when we provide welfare information, we should translate some of them into at least Mandarin, probably Arabic and Spanish.
Joining us now is Tom, your only candidate for VP Sports Development. If elected, Tom will be the lead officer on all matters related to sport and the Athletic Union Sports Club. Tom, are you ready for your first question?
Yes, go on, hit me.
In your experience, you talk about how you know about the whole of the sports zone, and yet you have only been the martial arts rep, which sits only on the AUC. How can you therefore say you have experience in intramural and participation committees?
Okay, so I have, I live with intramural people. Every day, what's the problem with intramural? I don't hear the end of the talk about intramural stuff. All of the recent ongoings with the intramural football stuff, I've been keeping a very close eye on. I've met lots of people in intramural. I know the problems. They're addressed in my manifesto, the problems of gym membership, wide lane management, referee training. So I do have enough experience with that side of intramural.
We're here for the penultimate zone of the night here at the SUSU election Q&A. This is Sam Williams, I'm Ellie Vamter, and this is the DCI zone, which stands for Democracy and Creative Industries. So this role leads for the structure and approach to all elections, ensuring their validity and fairness. The role also helps to develop and ensure that all 4 media departments of the Students' Union are run well. So we are joined here by the 3 candidates running for DCI. We've got Cameron Meldrum, Bryony Newman, and Michael Clark. So Bryony, welcome to the hot seat. You mentioned a longer period of voting with the incentive to vote too. What would that incentive be? And would a longer period not lead to less engagement?
Yeah, I'm now worried that that might be the case, seeing what the voting period is doing, so that may be a point I'd have to retract. But the increased engagement, I think, would be showing people the changes that have already been made thanks to student votes, so then they'd feel like voting would actually make a difference, because at the moment people think that voting wouldn't do anything anyway, but if you show them what things have come out of student votes already, they might be more inclined to give their opinion.
You mentioned looking into potentially holding the bun fight over 2 days. How would this fit into the Freshers' Week timetable with the Union and Freshers' Fairs happening too?
Well, throughout the Freshers' Fortnight, obviously since it's stretched over 2 weeks, you could easily be able to say push the Freshers' Fair to say the following Monday, because classically it's on the Friday. So that way then you could have the bun fight on 2 consecutive days. The main hope, the effect that this would have would be that then all the societies can get a very kind of fair chance to be able to be accessed by the students, because one of the classic criticisms is that the queues get incredibly long. They could stretch to over 2 hours in length, which I know that when I was a first year, that put me off from actually going to the bun fight. I simply looked on the website, but many students won't do that, and then that initial chance at marketing is very important for societies, so I think that could be improved.
You mentioned forging relationships between the media departments and external companies. How will you achieve this?
Well, yeah, this is primarily based on my push for greater employability. In Southampton, we've got places like Global Radio and BBC South Coast, and I think it's really important that we sort of push for employability by inviting them down, inviting them for more workshops and more skills-based training to SUSUtv and Surge and all the other media departments can really become the best they can be. That's something I'm really interested in.
Hello and welcome back to our final Q&A of the night. It's time to turn the grill up as we are joined by your presidential candidates. First up, we have Alex Hovden.
Hello, Alex. How's it going?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Alex, how are you?
Surviving somehow,
You say that you will instigate the development and release of a union app during your year in office.
Yes.
How will you do this?
So, I want to involve students at every level in this. I want to have a design competition for students to actually have their say in what the design of the app should be. I also want to have a coding competition, particularly with societies such as Hackathon and ECS Society, the students are shaping the way that app could work and run. Obviously, there are some theories that there are some people who think that we could go to an external company for this, but that would cost lots of money, I think. And if we had the expertise here at Southampton, we should be using that where possible.
Now, you mentioned in your manifesto that you think theoretical knowledge is all that is needed to run a union. So I'm going to set you a scenario here, Thomas. Would you be happy getting in a car with someone who has no practical driving experience but passed their theory test?
Just do it, was that nice? I didn't write that part in my manifesto.
You didn't write that part in your manifesto?
No, that was Evie over there. She wrote it for me.
Oh,
That's
dear.
a bollocks.
How do you feel about Evie writing that part in your manifesto?
Oh, well, it was handy. I'd run out of stuff.
So let's get on with the questions. What will make our union the greatest union and why?
What makes our union will be the greatest union if all our students are engaged, if we work together, if we all have a common goal, and if students are engaged in our uni. That will make our uni great.
Do you think students care?
I think students care. Yeah, I care, and I'm a student, so I think students care.
So you were here last year, I've already said that. Everyone keeps going on about it. But is this a tactical use of social media that you are using the same Facebook page that you used for VP Welfare last year for your presidential campaign this year?
I don't think it's particularly tactical. So I like the design. It's my favourite font.
What font is it?
It's called Eveleith. So yeah, it's very nice actually, very nice. I liked it and I thought I'd use it again. It's a nice photo of me, nicely sort of orange from my Essex roots, that kind of stuff, yeah.
So you mentioned that you are a highly trained engineer at numerous points in your manifesto and on your website, but how does being an engineer make you more capable or trustworthy than the other candidates?
I believe that I already answered that on my SUSU page, the question and answer. So next question.
But people don't look at the SUSU page all the time. We've already mentioned that people are a bit disengaged. Here's your opportunity right now. I'm a biomedical scientist. I could run to be a SAB. You're an engineer. What makes you have the skill set that would make you a better president?
Well, I am trained to make more right judgments in many sense. Then I can bring about changes in many aspects that are not currently explored by SUSU.
Thank you very much there, Zihong. Thank you. So that brings us there to the end of our presidential candidates. Big round of applause.
Thank you.
So we look forward to seeing who out of the 5 candidates for a union president will be successful on Friday. The way you can do that is go to SUSU.tv/live. We'll be streaming live from 8 p.m. all of the union elections results for all of the sabbatical positions. And if me and Lauren say one thing to you tonight, it is go ahead and vote. You've listened to these guys. They are clearly passionate, some of them less so, some of them more so, and it's up to you to distinguish between them. Go to the voting booth, head online to susu.org and make your vote, and we'll see you Friday.